It was a warm and sunny afternoon at the busy Willow Creek shopping plaza. Families walked hand in hand, teenagers laughed loudly near the ice cream shop, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. It was just another normal day, or so everyone thought. Maya, a young black woman in her late 20s, parked her car in front of Layton's Boutique, a famous luxury clothing store. She wore a simple outfit: blue jeans, a plain white t-shirt, and sneakers. Her hair was tied neatly, and she carried a small brown handbag. She looked relaxed, yet there was something strong about the way she walked. She carried herself with quiet confidence. Maya had always loved visiting different stores to understand how they were managed. Today was a special day for her, but she didn't want any attention. She simply wanted to look around and enjoy the moment. As Maya entered the boutique, the tiny bell above the door gave a soft ring. The store was beautiful: high glass shelves, shiny marble floors, and bright lights that made everything sparkle. Expensive handbags, designer clothes, and delicate jewelry filled the place. Maya smiled to herself and started looking at a row of elegant dresses. She gently touched the fabrics, feeling the quality with her fingertips. She wasn't loud. She didn't cause any disturbance. She was just another customer, or at least that's what it should have been. But behind the cashier counter stood Mr. Roberts, the store manager. He was a man in his 40s with a sharp nose, thinning hair, and a habit of judging people too quickly. As soon as he saw Maya, his eyes narrowed. He leaned slightly forward, watching her every move. "Who did she think she is?" he muttered under his breath, loud enough for the cashier next to him to hear. Mr. Roberts didn't know Maya. He didn't ask her any questions. He didn't even wait to see her behavior. In his mind, he had already decided she didn't belong here. In his eyes, someone dressed so simply, someone who looked like Maya, could not possibly be a real customer. Instead of offering help or greeting her politely, Mr. Roberts whispered to a nearby security guard, "Keep an eye on her. She's probably up to something." The security guard, confused but trained to follow orders, nodded and started moving slowly in Maya's direction. Meanwhile, Maya continued browsing, unaware of the growing suspicion around her. She admired a silk blouse, smiled at a cute handbag, and even picked up a brochure about the store's latest collection. Other customers moved around the store too, but strangely, no one else attracted the same kind of attention. Maya could feel a strange tension in the air. She noticed how the security guard kept glancing at her, how the cashier had stopped smiling, and how Mr. Roberts was whispering something behind the counter while glaring at her. For a moment, Maya felt a familiar ache in her chest, the feeling she had known too well growing up. She had experienced these silent judgments before, but today she decided to stay calm. She would not let anyone ruin her day. She picked up a beautiful red dress and held it against herself, smiling in the mirror. Just as she turned to check the size, Mr. Roberts approached her with a stiff, forced smile. "Can I help you?" he asked, but his voice was not friendly. It was cold, almost accusing. Maya smiled politely. "Just looking, thank you." Mr. Roberts didn't move. He stood too close, making her feel uncomfortable. After a short, awkward silence, he crossed his arms and said loudly enough for nearby shoppers to hear, "You know, this store is private property. We don't allow loitering." Maya's smile faded a little. She understood exactly what he meant. He wasn't just offering help. He was accusing her without reason. Still, she kept her voice calm. "I'm not loitering. I'm shopping," she said. Mr. Roberts' eyes darkened. Without asking for any proof, without giving her any benefit of doubt, he pulled out his phone and began dialing. Maya raised an eyebrow, confused. "What are you doing?" He didn't answer her. Instead, he turned away and spoke into the phone. "Yes, this is Mr. Roberts from Layton's Boutique. We have a suspicious person here. Might be trespassing. Please send someone." Other customers started whispering. Some glanced at Maya with curiosity. Others simply ignored the scene. A few pulled out their phones, sensing that something interesting, or terrible, was about to happen. Maya stood there, her hands relaxed at her sides, her heart beating fast, but her face calm. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't angry. She just felt tired, tired of being judged without a reason. As she looked around at the expensive clothes, the shiny floors, and the judging faces, she thought, "They have no idea who I am. They have no idea what's coming." A small, almost invisible smile crossed Maya's lips, because the real story was about to begin, and Mr. Roberts was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. The warm afternoon air inside the store grew heavy with tension. Maya stood quietly near the mirror, still holding the beautiful red dress. Around her, whispers floated through the air like smoke. Some customers looked uncomfortable. Others watched with hungry curiosity, sensing drama was about to unfold. Mr. Roberts stood behind the cashier counter, phone still pressed tightly against his ear. His eyes locked onto Maya like a hawk watching prey. The call ended quickly, and with a proud smirk, he slid the phone back into his pocket. "They'll be here soon," he muttered under his breath. Maya noticed how Mr. Roberts puffed out his chest, as if he had just performed some heroic act. She could feel the stares burning into her back, but she refused to show any fear. She gently placed the dress back on its hanger and stood tall. Within minutes, 2 uniformed police officers pushed open the boutique's glass doors. Their boots made heavy thuds against the marble floor. Everyone inside the store went silent. Even the music playing softly in the background seemed to fade away. Mr. Roberts rushed to the officers, pointing straight at Maya like a child tattling on someone. His voice was loud, filled with false confidence. "That's her," he barked. "She's trespassing. Acting suspicious. I caught her loitering around the store." The officers looked at Maya, then back at Mr. Roberts. They asked no questions. They didn't even ask for Maya's side of the story. One officer nodded and started walking toward her, handcuffs already glinting in his hand. Maya stayed still. She didn't run. She didn't shout. She simply folded her arms and looked at the officer calmly. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to step outside," the officer said, his voice firm but polite. "For what reason?" Maya asked, her voice even. The officer hesitated. For a moment, he seemed unsure. But then Mr. Roberts shouted from behind, "She doesn't belong here. She's disturbing the customers." A few customers shook their heads in disbelief. A couple of young women nearby even started recording the scene on their phones. Maya looked at the officer directly in the eyes. "I am not disturbing anyone. I'm shopping," she said quietly. The officer seemed uncomfortable but moved closer. "We just need to ask you some questions outside," he repeated. Maya knew better. She knew how quickly situations like this could spiral out of control. But she also knew something Mr. Roberts and the officers didn't: her real identity. Without resisting, she slowly placed her handbag on the counter, away from herself, showing she posed no threat. "You're making a mistake," she said softly, almost kindly. The officers gently but firmly placed handcuffs around her wrists. The cold metal bit into her skin. She heard a few gasps from around the store. The red dress she had admired only minutes ago now lay abandoned on the shiny floor. As they guided her toward the door, Mr. Roberts couldn't hide his satisfaction. His smirk stretched from ear to ear. He crossed his arms and nodded proudly at the other customers, as if saying, "I did the right thing." Outside the boutique, Maya stood between the 2 officers as they asked for her ID. Maya said nothing at first. Instead, she glanced toward the parking lot. And that's when everything started to change. A sleek black SUV raced into the lot and screeched to a stop right in front of the store. The car looked expensive, more expensive than any car parked there. Its tinted windows reflected the late afternoon sun like mirrors. The driver's door flung open, and out stepped a tall man in a sharp blue suit. His presence was commanding, and his face was twisted in fury. He held up a small wallet with a golden badge inside. The officers froze. Mr. Roberts, who had followed them outside to enjoy the show, felt his heart drop. The man marched straight up to Maya. Ignoring the officers, he asked urgently, "Miss Williams, are you all right?" Miss Williams. The name fell heavily into the quiet parking lot. The officers looked at each other in confusion. Mr. Roberts blinked rapidly, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Maya nodded calmly, a small smile playing on her lips. "I'm fine, Mr. Carter," she said. Mr. Carter turned sharply to the officers. "Remove those handcuffs. Right now." Without a word, the officers scrambled to unlock Maya's cuffs, their hands trembling slightly. Mr. Carter then turned his full angry attention toward Mr. Roberts. "And you," he said coldly, "have just made the worst mistake of your career." Mr. Roberts stumbled back, his face pale and sweaty. I didn't know. I thought." "You thought wrong," Mr. Carter snapped. All around, people gathered to watch, their phones still recording every second. The quiet whispers grew louder as the pieces of the story started to come together. Maya dusted off her jeans, her face calm, her eyes sharp. Because the truth was about to come out, and it would shake Mr. Roberts' world to its core. The parking lot of Willow Creek Shopping Plaza had turned into a small crowd. Shoppers stood with phones raised, recording every second of the drama unfolding outside Layton's boutique. The warm afternoon air was now filled with whispers, gasps, and growing excitement. Mr. Roberts stood frozen near the boutique entrance. His face was pale, his hands shaking slightly. He had believed he was a hero, protecting his store from trouble. But now, it was clear, he had made a terrible mistake. Maya, still calm, stood tall beside Mr. Carter, the sharp-dressed man who had arrived in the black SUV. Her wrists were free now, the handcuffs gone, but the marks of injustice were still fresh on her skin. Mr. Carter turned to the crowd, holding up his badge for everyone to see. The gold badge gleamed under the sun. It wasn't just any badge. It was an official seal from the board of directors of Layton's Corporation. Gasps filled the air. Whispers grew louder. "She works for the company. Is she, like, important? What's happening?" Mr. Carter's voice boomed across the lot, sharp and angry. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "you are standing in front of one of the owners of this boutique chain. Miss Maya Williams is not a trespasser. She is an executive partner of Layton's Corporation." Silence. Complete, heavy silence. Mr. Roberts' mouth fell open. His knees wobbled. He looked around for support, but found only judgmental eyes staring back at him. He stuttered, trying to speak. "I didn't know. She didn't look like." He stopped himself too late. The damage was done. Maya tilted her head slightly, her calm eyes cutting sharper than any words. She spoke for the first time since the reveal, her voice steady and cool. "I didn't look like someone who belongs here," she asked softly, but each word hit like a hammer. The crowd murmured louder now. Some people shook their heads in disgust. A few customers from the boutique stormed out in anger, throwing down the items they had planned to buy. Mr. Carter took a step forward, towering over Mr. Roberts. "You judged her based on how she looked. You humiliated her in public. You called the police on her without a single question asked." Mr. Roberts' face flushed bright red. Sweat rolled down his forehead. He tried to mumble an apology, but the words stuck in his throat. Maya didn't yell. She didn't scream. She didn't need to. Her silence was louder than any shouting could have been. Mr. Carter wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone and, with a cold smile, tapped a few buttons. "By the way, Mr. Roberts, you might want to check your email," he said. Mr. Roberts fumbled to pull out his own phone. His hands were shaking so badly that he almost dropped it. When he finally opened his inbox, his eyes widened in horror. There it was, an official termination letter from Layton's corporate office, effective immediately. Mr. Roberts' legs gave out, and he sank onto a nearby bench, looking like a man who had lost everything. In many ways he had. Maya watched quietly. She felt no joy in his pain, but she also felt no pity. Actions had consequences, and today, the consequences had come fast. The two police officers, who had earlier handcuffed Maya without asking questions, now stood awkwardly to the side, not knowing where to look. One of them finally stepped forward. "We're very sorry, Ma'am," he said quietly. "We didn't mean any harm." Maya gave a polite nod. She knew they were only part of a bigger problem, one that went far beyond just this day. The crowd outside began clapping slowly. First one person, then two, then the whole group. It wasn't a wild, loud applause. It was a slow, steady rhythm of support and respect. Maya smiled gently, feeling a small warmth in her chest. For once, the world was seeing the truth. Mr. Carter leaned close to her and whispered, "Would you like me to escort you back inside, Miss Williams?" Maya thought for a moment, then shook her head with a small smile. "No," she said. "Let him watch as I walk through the doors he thought I didn't belong in." She turned slowly, her head held high, and walked back toward Layton's boutique. The crowd parted like waves making way for a queen. Mr. Roberts could only sit and watch, his face buried in his hands, as Maya pushed open the glass doors and stepped back into the store, this time, not as a suspect, but as a rightful queen in her own empire. And this was just the beginning. Because Maya had plans. Big plans. And no one would ever look at her the same way again. The glass doors of Layton's boutique swung shut behind Maya, sealing her inside the cool, silent store. Every eye inside the boutique turned toward her. Some customers stood frozen, unsure whether to approach her or give her space. The employees, who had earlier ignored the situation, now looked nervous, unsure of what would happen next. Maya walked slowly through the store, her footsteps soft but powerful. She moved past the racks of expensive clothing, past the shining jewelry counters, and straight toward the front desk where the assistant manager, a young woman named Claire, stood trembling. Claire's face was pale as she tried to smile. "Miss Williams, I didn't know. We didn't know who you were," she stammered. Maya simply raised an eyebrow. She didn't need to say a word. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. Mr. Carter entered a few seconds later, standing proudly at Maya's side. He held a brown leather folder in his hand, the one that contained the papers Maya had brought with her today. Papers that were supposed to change the future of this boutique. "Attention, everyone," Mr. Carter said firmly, his voice slicing through the awkward silence. "Allow me to formally introduce Miss Maya Williams. She is not just a shopper and not just a visitor. She is one of the key investors in Layton's corporation." Gasps echoed around the store. Some employees looked down at the floor in shame. Others exchanged wide-eyed glances with each other. Maya finally spoke, her voice steady and calm. "Today, I came here to inspect one of the stores I have invested in. I wanted to see the customer service. I wanted to see the environment ordinary people experience when they walk in." She paused, letting her words settle like heavy stones on the hearts around her. "And now," she continued, "I have seen everything I needed to see." Claire stepped forward, wringing her hands nervously. "Miss Williams, we are truly sorry. We will make changes immediately." Maya held up her hand to stop her. "Change doesn't start with apology," she said. "It starts with action." Mr. Carter nodded and handed her the brown folder. Maya opened it and pulled out several documents. Everyone watched with bated breath. Inside the folder were inspection reports, secret shopper surveys, customer complaints, and a letter. A letter that detailed her full ownership rights of this particular boutique. Not just an investor. Not just a partner. Maya Williams was now the full owner of Layton's Willow Creek boutique. Another wave of gasps filled the room. Mr. Roberts, who had slowly wandered back into the store, heard the words and froze again. His face turned even paler, if that was possible. Maya looked around the store with sharp, thoughtful eyes. She wasn't angry in a wild way. She wasn't shouting or crying. She was calm, too calm, and that scared people even more. "This store," she said slowly, "will be rebuilt from the ground up." Employees shifted uncomfortably, realizing what was coming. "New management," she added. "New policies. New training. Respect will no longer be optional here." Some employees sighed in relief, while others, including Claire, began to realize their days might be numbered. And as for those who judged without knowing, those who treated customers unfairly, Maya's voice grew colder. "They have no place in my company." Mr. Roberts opened his mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. He slowly backed away, knowing he had no defense left. Mr. Carter spoke again, his voice loud enough for the entire boutique to hear. "Effective today, Miss Williams will be overseeing all operations. Any complaints or issues will go directly to her." Maya turned to the customers still standing in the store, the ones who had watched everything unfold. She gave a small, graceful bow of her head and said, "I thank you for your patience today. And I promise you this, from this day forward, every person who walks through these doors will be treated with the respect they deserve." The customers smiled, many of them nodding and clapping softly. Maya smiled back, a real warm smile this time. It had been a long, difficult afternoon, but something beautiful had grown out of the pain. Change. Real change. As Maya walked deeper into the boutique to begin inspecting every corner, Mr. Roberts quietly slipped away through the side door, his career and reputation crumbling behind him. And Maya, she was just getting started. Because the best revenge wasn't loud or violent. The best revenge was rising so high that no one could ever pull her down again. And Maya Williams was already soaring. The evening sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the shopping plaza in soft golden light. Inside Layton's boutique, a new chapter was already beginning. Maya Williams stood at the center of the store, holding a clipboard in one hand and a determined look in her eyes. Around her, the employees gathered nervously, their faces filled with uncertainty. The energy inside the store had completely changed. No longer cold and dismissive, now it was filled with the quiet hum of possibility and fear of the unknown. Maya cleared her throat softly, getting everyone's attention. "Today," she began, "is not just about fixing mistakes. It's about creating a new future." Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "From this moment, every employee must go through diversity training," she said firmly. "Everyone will learn how to treat every customer with respect, no matter what they look like, no matter what they wear, and no matter where they come from." A few employees nodded quickly, eager to show they agreed. Others shifted awkwardly, knowing deep down they had been part of the problem. Maya continued, flipping to the next page on her clipboard. "There will be monthly reviews. Secret shoppers will visit. Customer feedback will decide bonuses. And if anyone shows even a hint of discrimination." She paused, letting her gaze sweep over every face. "They will be dismissed immediately." There was no anger in her voice, just truth. Clear, final, unshakable. At the back of the group, Claire, the assistant manager, raised her hand timidly. "Miss Williams," she asked, voice shaking, "will we get a chance to prove ourselves?" Maya gave a small, thoughtful smile. "Of course," she said warmly. "Everyone deserves a chance to change. What matters is what you do starting today." Relief washed over some employees' faces. Others still looked nervous, unsure if they could rise to the new standard Maya was setting. Mr. Carter stepped forward and handed out small booklets titled Layton's Code of Honor. Inside were the new rules, clearly written in simple words, easy for everyone to understand. Respect, kindness, fairness, no excuses. Maya watched as each employee took a booklet, flipping through the pages. Some read carefully, others just nodded, but one thing was certain: the store would never be the same again. After the meeting, Maya spent the next hour walking through every part of the boutique. She spoke kindly to customers, helping them find items. She asked the cleaning staff if they had what they needed. She even sat with a young cashier during her break, listening to her stories about working 2 jobs to support her family. Maya didn't just want to fix the store. She wanted to rebuild the heart of it. And she was doing it, one person at a time. Outside the boutique, the crowd had mostly faded, but a few curious shoppers lingered, peeking inside, wondering about the woman who had turned the entire day upside down. Word had already begun to spread across the plaza. "Did you hear? The black woman they kicked out actually owns the store now. She fired the manager right on the spot. She's the real boss here." Maya smiled quietly to herself as she arranged a new display of handbags near the front window. She hadn't set out to make headlines. She had only wanted respect. But if changing the world came along with it, she was ready. As the boutique settled into a quieter rhythm, Mr. Carter approached Maya, a proud smile on his face. "You did it," he said simply. Maya looked around the store, now filled with cautious hope instead of hidden hate. "No," she replied. "We're just getting started." Mr. Carter chuckled and nodded. Together, they stood side by side, 2 warriors who had fought the day's ugly battle with dignity and grace, and won. Maya knew there would still be challenges ahead. Not everyone would welcome the changes. Not everyone would change their hearts. But she didn't need everyone's approval. She only needed to stay true to who she was. And that was more powerful than any title, badge, or ownership paper. Maya Williams was not just an owner. She was a leader. And leaders didn't run from storms. They stood tall and walked right through them. With her head high, Maya walked to the boutique's front doors, unlocked them wide open, and flipped the sign to Whale Siwane. A new beginning had arrived. And this time, everyone would know exactly who was in charge. The next morning, the sun rose bright and early over the Willow Creek shopping plaza. But something was different now. Inside Layton's boutique, the atmosphere was completely changed. Gone was the coldness. Gone was the silent judgment that had once filled the air. In its place was a feeling of warmth, of welcome, a feeling of respect. Maya Williams arrived at the store just as the clock struck 9. She wore the same simple style: jeans, sneakers, and a white blouse. No expensive jewelry. No flashy designer bag. Just herself, proud, calm, and unstoppable. As she walked through the glass doors, the employees stood waiting for her. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. Claire, the assistant manager, stepped forward with a nervous but genuine smile. "Good morning, Miss Williams," she said. Maya smiled back. "Good morning, Claire." Behind Claire, the other employees nodded and greeted her warmly. They weren't pretending this time. They had seen what real leadership looked like, and they wanted to be part of it. Maya gathered everyone near the front counter. "I want to thank you all for being here today," she said. "I know yesterday wasn't easy. Change is never easy. But respect isn't about fear. It's about understanding." The employees listened carefully. "Respect," Maya continued, "means treating every person who walks through these doors like they matter. Because they do." She looked around the group, making eye contact with each person. No customer should ever feel judged. No customer should ever feel small. And no one should be treated differently because of their skin, their clothes, or their wallet. The room was silent, every word sinking deep. "Starting today," Maya said, "this store is going to set an example. We will be known not just for our products, but for our kindness." Claire raised her hand again, but this time there was a strength behind her voice. "Miss Williams," she asked, "what if someone from outside, another manager or even a customer, tries to bring that old behavior back?" Maya smiled, proud of the question. "Then we remind them who we are," Maya said simply. "With dignity, with grace. We don't lower ourselves to their level. We lift them up to ours." The employees nodded, some with tears shining in their eyes. They had never worked for someone like Maya before, someone who didn't just want profits, She wanted purpose. As the meeting ended, Maya handed out a small gift to each employee, a silver pin shaped like a small open hand. "This is a symbol," she explained. "An open hand means welcome. It means respect. Wear it proudly." Everyone pinned the small badge to their shirts, feeling a new sense of pride. Not pride in the store's name. Pride in themselves. Throughout the day, customers entered the boutique, some out of curiosity, others to show support. An older woman with silver hair walked in carrying a bright bouquet of flowers. She found Maya arranging a new display and smiled. "I heard what happened," the woman said. "And I just want to say, thank you. Thank you for standing up for people like me, people who are often judged before they even speak." Maya accepted the flowers with a warm smile and hugged the woman lightly. "You're always welcome here," Maya said. Word spread fast. By noon, the store was busier than it had been in months. Families, young people, elderly shoppers, everyone felt the new spirit inside Leighton's boutique. No one was followed around. No one was treated with suspicion. Everyone was treated with respect. Even Mr. Carter, who watched from a nearby coffee shop, couldn't help but smile at the change. He had seen many businesses in his lifetime, but he had rarely seen a transformation this deep, this real. Meanwhile, across town, Mr. Roberts sat alone in his apartment, scrolling through his phone. News articles about Maya's victory were everywhere now. Young black woman turns tables on racist manager. Investor shocks boutique after rude treatment. Respect wins. Maya Williams' powerful stand. Mr. Roberts slumped back in his chair, realizing what he had lost. It wasn't just a job. It was his reputation, and he had no one to blame but himself. Back at the boutique, as the sun set once again, Maya stood at the front window, watching families laugh and chat outside. Mr. Carter joined her, sipping a coffee. "You built something beautiful here," he said. Maya shook her head softly. "We built it," she corrected him. Together, they stood side by side, watching the golden sunset wash over the plaza. Respect wasn't just a word on a wall. It was alive now. It was real. And it had the power to change everything. Weeks passed, and the boutique at Willow Creek Plaza was no longer just a store. It had become a symbol of hope, a symbol of fairness, a symbol of change. Maya Williams walked through the store one morning, her heart full of pride. The sunlight streamed through the big windows, making everything look golden and new. Customers smiled as they browsed. Employees chatted happily with them, offering help without judgment, without fear. There was laughter in the air now, light, real, and full of life. Maya paused near the front desk where a young boy was picking out a scarf for his mother. The boy was shy, looking nervous about touching anything. Maya knelt beside him with a kind smile. "It's okay," she said softly. "You belong here." The boy's eyes lit up with a smile, and he proudly carried the scarf to the cashier. Moments like that reminded Maya why she had fought so hard. Respect wasn't just for adults. It was a gift for the next generation, too. As Maya stood up, Mr. Carter walked in, carrying a large brown envelope. "You've got mail," he said with a chuckle. Maya opened the envelope and pulled out a beautifully printed certificate. It read, "Community Champion Award for leadership, courage, and changing the heart of our town." Tears filled Maya's eyes, but she blinked them back quickly. She hadn't fought for awards. She had fought for dignity, hers and everyone else's. Still, the recognition felt good. Mr. Carter clapped a hand on her shoulder. "You've started something bigger than this boutique," he said. "You've started a movement." Maya smiled, thinking of all the small ways respect had spread since that day. Other stores in the plaza had begun their own diversity training. Shoppers of every background now felt more comfortable visiting. Even the town's mayor had announced new policies to encourage fairness in all businesses. Change was happening. Real change. And it had started with one woman refusing to be disrespected. Maya decided to hang the award on the boutique's front wall, right next to the entrance. But she placed something else above it, a framed photo. It showed the boutique's team, smiling, diverse, united. Beneath the photo, a small sign read, "Respect, not a rule, a way of life." As the day went on, Maya helped customers, trained new employees, and even took time to listen to an old man's story about his first job selling shoes. Every small conversation mattered. Every smile, every handshake, every word of kindness. Because real change wasn't loud. It was built quietly, person by person, heart by heart. Later that afternoon, a little girl in a pink dress tugged at Maya's hand. "Are you the boss here?" she asked with wide, curious eyes. Maya knelt down and smiled. "Yes, I am." The little girl grinned. "When I grow up," she said proudly, "I want to be like you." Maya's heart swelled with emotion. She realized in that moment, this was her true legacy. Not just owning a boutique, but inspiring others to believe they could stand tall too. That no matter what they looked like, no matter what others said, they could lead, they could change the world. One small act of courage at a time. As the sun set once again, casting a soft orange glow over the plaza, Maya stood at the boutique's door, looking out at the busy, bustling world. The battle hadn't been easy. It hadn't been pretty. But it had been worth it. Because now, anyone who walked through her doors, rich or poor, old or young, black, white, or anything in between, would know one powerful truth. They were respected. They were welcome. They mattered. Maya closed the boutique gently for the night, locking the doors and turning off the lights. As she walked away, she didn't need to look back. She knew the future was bright. And she knew she had helped build it, one act of courage, one heart at a time. The legacy of change had begun, and it would never be stopped. Months turned into a year, and Maya's small stand for respect had grown far beyond what she ever imagined. Layton's boutique had not only survived, it had flourished. Sales had doubled. New stores had opened under Maya's leadership in nearby cities. Each one carried the same message on its front door. Respect lies here. But the biggest change wasn't just in the business. It was in the people. In Willow Creek, other stores that once treated customers coldly now greeted everyone with warm smiles. Children of all backgrounds played together outside the plaza's fountain without fear. Elderly customers, once ignored, were now offered chairs, water, and help without even asking. Maya's story had been picked up by news stations and social media. One woman's courage changes an entire town, the headlines read. She had been invited to speak at schools, to tell young students that standing up for yourself and for others could make the world better. At a local school auditorium, she stood before hundreds of bright young faces. "You don't have to be rich," she told them. "You don't have to be famous. You just have to be brave enough to believe that everyone deserves kindness." The students clapped, some wiping their eyes, their hearts touched by her simple but powerful words. Back at the boutique, new faces kept coming. One afternoon, a man in a sharp gray suit entered, looking nervous. It was Mr. Roberts, the same manager who had once humiliated Maya. He stood by the entrance, unsure if he should even step inside. Maya saw him and paused. For a long moment, the past hung between them. The insults, the humiliation, the false accusations. But Maya didn't let anger control her. She walked toward him, calm and strong. Mr. Roberts removed his hat and spoke quietly. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I was wrong." Maya studied him carefully. He looked older now, tired, changed. She gave a small nod. "Thank you for saying that," Maya said. There was no need for more. She had moved on. She had risen. And seeing her strength, even Mr. Roberts knew. She had won long ago. As he turned to leave, Maya called after him. "I hope you find your way too," she said gently. Mr. Roberts paused, nodded once, and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Maya returned to her work, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't even realized she was waiting for. She had fought hate, and she had answered it with grace. And that was true victory. Outside the store, the Willow Creek Plaza prepared for a special celebration. The city council had renamed the main plaza square in her honor. A huge new sign was being unveiled. Maya Williams Square, a place for everyone. As the cloth covering the sign fell away, cheers erupted. Children released balloons into the sky, their colors bright and beautiful against the blue afternoon. Maya stood with Mr. Carter and her loyal employees, watching the balloons float higher and higher. The legacy she had built wasn't made of stone or steel. It was made of hearts changed, of minds opened, of futures brightened. It would live on, in every kind smile, in every hand offered in friendship, in every door held open, every voice lifted up. That was the real ripple effect. And it was just beginning. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, turning the sky gold and pink, Maya whispered a promise to herself. I will keep fighting. I will keep believing. I will keep building a world where everyone is seen, everyone is heard, and everyone is respected. And she knew now, she wasn't alone. A single drop of courage had started a river of change, and it would flow forever.